Hi everyone, and today we're going to be looking at creating a virtual classroom using Google Classroom. So I know many persons are familiar with using Google Classroom, and if not, you'd have heard about Google Classroom somewhere or the other. Now, what is important to note is that Google Classroom is one of the most popular learning management systems available worldwide. Now, in using Google Classroom, there are many different ways how you can design your classroom for it to have that great experience for your students to be a part of it, and also for the learning to be informative and great. Now, what usually becomes a call for concern for educators or for even instructional designers is to ensure that they create a space, a learning exchange that is robust, diverse, and most importantly, creates a great user experience. Now, instructional design is that arm of teaching and learning that allows for educators to create mind-blowing course, which ultimately leads to mind-blowing experiences. Now, in creating your courses, just a few things that you can do to ensure that your virtual classroom is one that is great. Now, the first thing that you want to do is to create a section that accommodates your welcome and introduction. At this section, what you're really doing is providing your students with an opportunity for them to know about you. So you'll have a section underneath your big broad topic that is welcome and introduction that tells your students about you. Meet your teacher. Give them all the information that you think is relevant for your students to learn about you as an educator. If you have multiple teachers in the space, of course, multiple teachers can come together and use external softwares that allow for you to video edit, or even a document that will allow for the students to learn about each individual teacher in the space. Please note that in creating your introductory section or creating your welcome and introduction, how you go about making this introduction or this welcome is all dependent on the audience that you're creating it for. So most importantly, if you're creating a welcome video for a set of primary students or kindergarten K1 to K3 or K4, it is important that you use animations or pictures or audio or type of images that will appeal to their sensory motor development at that particular stage. Then you need to create a section that will help your students to know and learn about each other. So meet your classmates is the next section that you would need to create. Now give your students an opportunity for them to meet each other. Give them an opportunity for them to be able to socialize and learn about their classmates. Yes, we know in the virtual space that our students might not know everybody. They might not know who is Thomas, who is John, who is Roy, but you need to create that atmosphere that will allow for your students who come into the class at day 1 and those who maybe came in day 2, 3, 4, 5 can still get an opportunity to meet each other. What you're also doing is providing for your learners a landscape that they can all learn about the individual persons within the space. Then you move to your class rules. Now, just as in a physical classroom where you normally, share with your students what are the rules that you have for your class, what are the things that they are supposed to be doing in the class, what is it that they're not supposed to be doing, you will need to also provide for them the class rules. And of course, you can always find class rules that are available online, and most importantly, you will have class rules that are part of your school environment. And then class expectations. You want to ensure that in your virtual classroom, whether you're creating a classroom for after school, or you're creating a classroom for a learning gap situation, whatever you're doing, you would need to create a space that will help your students to understand what are the learners' expectations. What is it that you're expected or is expected of you in this space? And thus it creates for your students that mode of operation. How is it they behave? How is it that they will go about learning in this space? What kind of responsibilities do they have, etc.? And then we move to your curriculum information. Now, it is important that we create a space within your course, within your classroom, for your students to have an idea of the curriculum. While it's not mandated, it is a good practice to have your curriculum information there so students can follow along. And even if you're in the early education section, it is so important that you could put the objective, the syllabus there, because it helps your parents to track the progress of learning within your learning exchange. The next section is your chill zone. Your chill zone is that little space that allows for your learners or your participants to just relax and chill. So again, if you're dealing with high school students, put something there, a game, an outlet, a Padlet, whatever you can integrate into the space to help your learners to appreciate some downtime. Then you have assignment clarification. Now, this section is designed by you as the educator to allow for your students to ask questions about assignments. Let us say you have SBAs. Let us say you have coursework. Let us say you have homework. This section is basically a forum section that will allow for your students to ask questions about things within the assignments or assignments that they are not so key on. And this allows for everybody within the class to benefit from that as well. Then we have a section called student support. Now, student support is that one section in any course, in any classroom, that will give them all the student support resources that they will need to be able to navigate the space. What is important to note is that your students always and will access your class at different times of the day. And thus, especially if you're using asynchronous teaching modality, your students will need an opportunity to know that, for example, if I want to upload an assignment, there's a resource there, there's a video, there's a document there that will tell them how to upload the assignment. There should be something there that will help your students to understand how to navigate your course, or even anything that will support them with making or reaching any success level in your course. So let's talk about how we design our lessons. Now, different educational institutions will have a particular set of guidelines or parameters in how you can design your lessons. Now, in designing these lessons, it is not a hard task as long as you understand what is it that you're doing. So we're going to contextualize designing our lessons using the 5E lesson plan model. Now, if you're not using the 5E lesson plan model, not to worry, whatever approach you're using, it's still going to help you as well. Now, the first thing you want to establish is a name, a default lesson name for your lesson. So that's the default name, lesson 1. But let us say now we need to attach the topic. What is important is that your topics are aligning with your curriculum. Now, you need to also indicate the modality, if the class is going to be asynchronous or synchronous. And you'll also need to indicate the date of the lesson. How you decide to indicate the date is entirely up to you, but it is important that your students can align their timetable and their calendar to the dates of the lessons that you have. It gives a better chance for your learners to track their learning progress and to track what lesson is done and when that particular lesson is done. So in your lesson, you will have first your lesson objectives. Now, in having your lesson objectives, what is important to note is that you are going to be creating the objectives in such a way that you are speaking directly to the students. So you will say in your objectives, for example, welcome to another lesson. Today we are going to be focusing on identifying 3 characteristics of jumping. Right? And that will allow for your students now to have a better understanding of what are the objectives, what are the goals, what are the aims of this particular lesson. And then we move to the lesson guidelines. Your lesson guidelines are ultimately the navigation path that your students will need to take in order to complete this lesson. And then we move to what we call the introductory activity. Now, if you're using the 5-year lesson plan, then it will be called your engagement activity. Your introductory activity serves as that one activity that helps the students to tap into their prior knowledge to connect with the present knowledge that you're going to be teaching them. Of course, we move on to lesson content. You must make the lesson content available for the students. The students want to know the content. And then in knowing the content, you decide where in your lesson you put the content for them to know. But then you need to develop what we call lesson tasks. And you have lesson tasks 1, 2, 3, 4, depending on how much you need to have. And then your lesson task now will be the task that you would have ultimately done in your lesson plan to carry out the lesson. So any activities that you have planned, the explore activity, the explain activity, the elaborate activity, the evaluation activity are all considered to be lesson tasks, or you can call it lesson activity. Now, what other things can you add into the space to make your virtual classroom more dynamic and more beneficial to your students? Now, I'm going to use this as an opportunity to demonstrate how you can maneuver the space in creating that virtual space or that virtual classroom. So let us say I wanted to add a section for my class recordings. Good. I'm going to go to create and I'm going to go to topic and I'm going to call it class recordings, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add it. Now, based on how Google Classroom works, it immediately adds a topic to the top. So if you want to, you can just go ahead and move it down and move it to the section. Just keep on moving it down to the section that you want it to go, so that you have a better angle of where you want it in your particular course page or class page. So I'm trying to get it down to right here. Good. So this is where I'll have all of my class recordings. So you might be wondering, how did we create all the other topics that were there? So let's walk through. To create my welcome topic, I come to create and I say topic. I put in the information again, welcome. And I go ahead and I add. So let us say, for argument's sake, that I wanted to add a welcome message, a text message, a Word document. I'll go to create and then I'll say add material. Now, adding material, I could have it as my title, welcome message. I could put a description here if I so desire. I don't want to. And if I have my welcome message anywhere located on my computer, then I could go ahead and put it there. So what I'm going to do is that I am going to just search for a random welcome message on the internet. And I'm going to take it down, possibility in a picture format. And I'm going to go ahead and upload it to the course page. So I'm just going to select one without anything. I'm just going to copy the link address. I'm going to come back over to my classroom. I'm going to select where I went off. I'm going to paste the link right here. And I'm going to go ahead and add the link. So the link is added for the image. So I'm going to decide where I want to put it. Do I want to push it to this class or the other classes? I just want it to go to this class. All the students in the class. And Alright, so once you have assigned your particular topic, then you should be good to go. Once that is done, it brings you back right here. Alright, so if I need to create another topic, let us say if I wanted to create the topic chill zone again, then you come back to create, and then you say topic, and then you could put whatever information you want there, and go ahead and say add. And of course, if I want to move it down, I click at the three dots and I say move down, and I'll move it down to wherever I want it to be placed in the particular course page. All right, so I'm just going to head and delete this one because we already have one there. So in creating your course or creating your virtual classroom, it is important that you try to ensure that you are replicating what a normal classroom would look like. And thus you want to ensure that everything that you need as resources, every section that you think is important for your learners, must be made available. Now, it's all about your creativity and your innovation to ensure that your classroom space looks and feels very good to the learner. Please note that Google Classroom is a little bit not so flexible. If you want to add a lot of pictures or animation, you might not have that luxury with Google Classroom. Alright, so I'm going to delete this welcome that was created just a while ago. And we're going to go back and focus on the ones that were already there. So let us say then I want to add a little thing different to welcome and introduction, maybe some emojis or something. Now, usually in the creation section, if you want to add anything, it would have been great to edit your welcome and introduction. So you click on it and you click on rename, and you go ahead and you would rename. Now, ultimately, if your keyboard has the option for you to put the emojis on it, then you can go ahead and do so. If not, you just leave it alone and rename. All right, so these are the different sections of the welcome and introduction. All right, I hope this video was of great help. Thank you for watching. See you again in our next video.